music, athletics, arts, and entertainment. The Desert Tiger Podcast with Colton Geschwantner.
And that is me, your host with the most, your MC, your referee, whatever I can be, whatever I want to be. You know I'm going to strive for it, and you know I'm going to do it. My name's Colton G, and welcome to episode 21 of the Desert Tiger Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the DTP this week. Whatever you're listening on, whoever you are, wherever you're listening from, we don't care. We're just glad that you guys are tuning in, and we hope that you hit that subscribe button, and we hope that you rate and review the show because it helps us out so much. Today on episode 21 of the DTP, we have Kenny Lush of DAGGERMOUTH. We're going to sit down and talk with Kenny about how DAGGERMOUTH ended up getting their start. We're going to talk about the band's rise as they were touring from Rain City, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, all the way down to the California coast, playing backyards and house shows, and how they eventually built themselves up. We're going to talk about the two albums that the band ended up releasing, those being Stallone and Turf Wars. And we're going to talk about the hiatus that the band ended up taking after about 4 to 6 years of playing music together and just having tough times on the road. We're also going to get into Kenny Lush's wrestling career. We're going to talk to Kenny about where he started wrestling, who trained him. We're going to talk to him about some of his experiences traveling around the world and wrestling in different places. We're going to talk to him about some of the people he has competed against, such as current NXT superstars Kyle O'Reilly and the Queen of Spades, Shayna Bazler. We're also going to talk to Kenny today a little bit about his Brazilian Jujitsu experience. And after all that, we still have some more for you as we're going to get into the return of DAGGERMOUTH. We're going to get into why the guys decided to get back together to play some shows. We're going to talk about their upcoming tour of the UK, which they always wanted to do but never had the chance to until now. And we're also going to talk about if DAGGERMOUTH is possibly thinking of recording in the future. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to get into some very interesting stories like why exactly does the Glendale Police Department hate DAGGERMOUTH so much? But before we can get into our interview with Kenny Lush, you know we got to take care of a little bit of business and we got to play a little bit of music for you. So of course, that's what we're going to do. Alright, first off, I want to tell you guys about Collar and Elbow. Collar and Elbow is a streetwear company that is inspired by wrestling and was started by pro wrestler, ex-WWE superstar, ex-TNA wrestler, Al Snow. Al has trained all over the world. He has trained various different wrestlers, and he wants to help people show their love of professional wrestling, and he's doing that with his clothing company, Collar and Elbow. If you guys go to the Collar and Elbow web store right now and use the code DTP whenever you check out, you're going to go ahead and save yourself 10% on some pretty sick looking clothing. It's not even just for the wrestling fans. It's for people who want to wear something that looks cool. Maybe something a little bit different from what you're used to. So once again, if you go to the Collar and Elbow web store and use the code DTP, you get yourself 10% off. I also need to tell you guys about Audible. Audible is a great service, and I use it myself all the time. When I'm on the road, like I was this past weekend, reffing for RCW and actually meeting Al Snow himself and learning some tricks of the trade from him, I had Audible along on the road to keep me company, because 14 to 16 hours alone in a truck can get pretty tiring, and sometimes having a good book to listen to really takes your mind off of things on those long drives. And if you guys go to www.audible.com/DTP right now, Audible is going to go ahead and give you 1 free month of their service, as well as 1 free audiobook to get you started. And if you guys enjoy the service, if you guys enjoy that audiobook and you decide to keep subscribing to the Audible service after that month, Audible's going to go ahead and hook you up for a second audiobook just for going to that www.audible.com/DTP link. Just because they love us and we love you, they're going to go ahead and hook you up. So what is there to lose? Alright, so we should probably get into some music, right? We should probably get some headbanging going. We should probably get you guys ready to mosh, ready to roll. Get you guys in the mood to hear some interesting, exciting stories. So we're going to kick things off with Stevenson Mike Can Mosh to This, followed directly by I Can Dance to Trance and Garbage Bag Pants.
Desert Tiger Podcast.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing fantastic.
How are
you?
Is only the second. I'm good. This is only the second time I've ever used Skype, so
no worries,
I'm all like,
man.
what fucking button do I press and stuff? But
you pressed the right one.
Yeah.
You listened to the Men in Black and you did not press the red button.
Nope.
That's what I
pressed
needed.
That.
That's what
Green's
I needed.
always the one. I don't know. I hit something green.
All right. Well, that was the correct option.
Sweet.
All right. So how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm just waking up. I worked late last night, so just waking up, and I put some coffee on and put some Ring of Honor wrestling on the TV, and I'm good to.
Yeah. Gotta love the ROH.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right, I want to get into DAGGERMOUTH because you guys are getting into it, but I also want to get into your wrestling and a little bit about your BJJ MMA background as well.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Awesome. All right, well, let's start. You guys all played in different bands before you ended up in DAGGERMOUTH. So how did DAGGERMOUTH end up coming together?
Oh, in 2000 and I guess we started around like 2004 or something like that, 2003, 2004. And yeah, just at the time, like Stu was playing in a screamo band called End This Week with Knives, and I was playing in like a more like just straight up punk rock band at the time, and no one really in the city was doing like fast kind of punk rock at that time. And one day Stu just came to my work. I was working at A&B Sound, if you remember those.
Yeah.
And Stu just came in. He was like, hey, do you want to start like a fast punk band? And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And that's how it kind of started. And he already had the name picked out. He said, because I guess at the time he's a big Family Guy fan, so he said,
yeah,
let's either call it Stewie's Sexy Party or Daggermouth. And I was like, I think Daggermouth sounds a bit better. So that's how that came.
Might be able to get a little bit farther with Daggermouth.
Yeah. Well, we didn't think it would we didn't plan on, having kids all over the world, write us, and we thought we were just going to play like 2 local shows and that was it, right? And it just kind of, after our first tour, it just kind of snowballed from there, and yeah.
All right, so do you want to get into how those opportunities came about, like your first tours, and how you guys ended up getting signed by Small Man?
Yeah, Small Man did our second album. Yeah.
Who did your first one? Did you guys release that, or?
It was kind of weird. Our first one, we did a demo, and we're like, okay, we got this demo CD. Let's book a tour. And I literally went online, and there was this do-it-yourself punk rock website at the time called like Book Your Own Fucking Life, and I literally like just started sending out emails and stuff, and ended up booking like a 10-day West Coast tour, and from there we met a kid in Washington that was like, oh, I'm starting a record label. You should, go in and record, and I'll release it. Mm-hmm. So we gave it to this guy, and he ended up being sketchy. Like, the album didn't come out on time. I found out like he ended up pressing the album, but
yeah,
I don't know. He had some drama in Seattle where he was from, and he ended up taking off. And he didn't send out, like, people pre-ordered the album, and if you send $30, you get the album and a shirt, and he didn't send anyone things. So out of our own money, we ended up having to like mail out shirts and fulfill all these. Yeah. So then another label called State of Mind from New York, like Long Island, they wrote us. So we gave them, we took back the rights or whatever, and gave them the second album or the first album, and he wanted to do the second album too, so we ended up doing the second album with him. And
nice.
And at that time, we realized he wasn't really doing much either, so Small Man came knocking around and was like, oh, we should put it out in Canada. And Small Man at the time was a pretty big label with a pretty sweet roster of bands like Comeback Kid and Monine. Like, they were the Canadian label at the time. So
yeah, they did. They also had Andrew Newfield's side project band at the time too.
Sights and Sounds, yeah. And, Sights is they're actually recording a new album right now. So I think in the
man, I am so excited to hear that.
Yeah, they're going to do some more stuff in the new year, I believe. They just did a show in like Winnipeg or something, so they're slowly playing and stuff. It's all based on Comeback Kid's schedule, though, which is like always insane crazy. So
always.
Yeah.
I tried getting Jeremy in person before I moved to BC, but it just never panned out because like I literally moved right before they came back from tour just to sit at home for a few days, and it was like, damn.
Yeah.
But I understand that. So, like, after that Western Canadian tour, did you guys just start touring, like, a lot? Or did it take a little while before you guys started trying to tour it full time?
No, that was that tour was, like, pretty eye-opening for us. And it wasn't Western Canada. We always had this theory that, like, always figured, okay, if you want to be in a band and you live in Vancouver, like, you drive 12 hours and play 1 or 2 shows in between that. You know, you could maybe play Kelowna on the way to Alberta, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you could do that giant 12-hour drive or whatever it is, or you can drive 12 hours and be in like San Francisco and literally play like a week worth of shows on the way down. So we always just toured the States. We didn't even tour Canada for a while. Yeah, like
okay, so you did West Coast USA.
Yeah, and that's why our first album's called Stallone, because at the time we didn't have like work papers and stuff. And it was kind of before the border got super strict, and so we were going across and we had a fake recording contract and it said the name of the band, and so we just called ourselves Stallone. So that's why the first record's called Stallone. But yeah, I kind of figure, I don't know if it makes any sense or not, but I was like, listen, if kids in LA will like us, then kids all over the world will like us. Like, you either got to be super cool in Toronto, or you got to be super cool in New York, or you got to be super cool in California. So let's just, California's closest to us. So if the kids on the message boards in LA are saying we're good, kids everywhere will think we're cool. So I don't know, that was kind of my theory in 2004. But yeah, it worked out rad. Like, the shows were all like, you know, because at the time I think we had a MySpace up, and so kids knew some of the lyrics and stuff. It was kind of it was crazy, a lot of the turnouts we had and stuff. So it was really, we're like, let's get back down there in like 2 months or 3 months. Like, the minute I got back, I started booking another tour, and I think on that tour, the second time down, that's when we played like Gilman Street, which is, I don't know if you know, that legendary venue in Berkeley, California, where like Green Day started, and all these bands like all the huge punk bands from the Bay Area all had like their first ever shows there.
Huh.
Yeah, you can go into it's 924 Gilman Street, and it's it's like probably the most legendary like punk rock venue.
Holy.
On the west side, yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think like that song 86 by Green Day was about that place, I believe, because once you're on a major label, you're not allowed to play there anymore. So they got 86 from Gilman Street. And then I found out, I think the rumor is now they have a new sound system, and supposedly Billy Joe from Green Day bought the new sound system for the club and everything. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a cool venue. Check out the history of it.
I'm definitely going to have to.
So,
yeah. So like, you guys ended up naming your second album Turf Wars. Is that sort of like with the idea of Stallone still in mind, or?
No, Turf Wars, I forget. I think we were just like big fans of the movie The Warriors at the time. That's still one of my favorite movies. So I think that's why a lot of the shit, I don't know if you notice our song titles and stuff, they don't really make a lot of sense, and they're just, we'll have a few beers in us and come up with an inside joke, and we'll laugh.
Well, that was the early 2000s.
Yeah. So yeah, like, I don't know, I think at one point we're just talking about in Vancouver how, like, we're the only band playing super fast right now, and we'll go on a show and the other bands don't like us. Like, let's call ourselves, we should call the album Turf Wars. And the inside artwork has like us in an alley, kind of battling it out with a bunch of like swoop hair kids. So it's just kind of like a little inside joke.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Doing battle with all the kids who are trying to rip off of the really whiny bands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So did you guys like you guys definitely didn't have that much for expectations. So like, to have kids shouting like, there ain't no party like a Daggermouth party, because a Daggermouth party don't stop, like everywhere you go, man.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, by the time Turf Wars came out, like, the steam was pretty behind us. Because we never had like our labels never really helped us at all. We never had a booking agent. Like, all this shit was like done by me, like just booking. Like I'd be on a tour already, booking the next tour. And, you know, it was sweet. Like towards the end, we had a couple bands like I'm the Avalanche took us out a few times on tour, and Comeback Kid took us out for a little Western Canada run. But, you know, it was mostly just us by ourselves. But by the time like Turf Wars was around, we were at a point where anywhere we'd go in the States, we were like, we'd play like some middle of fucking nowhere town. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but yeah, some middle.
Dude, no worries. You can swear all you want.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck piss shit.
Yeah, we'd play anywhere, and there'd be like 150 kids showing up to like someone's basement or someone's, you know, little shitty like VFW hall and stuff. So yeah, the steam started rolling really good, which was awesome, and then came the demise.
Well, it happens, right? Like
we went so hard so fast, and you know, we were working really, really hard, and I don't know, we just, you know, we saw other bands going to Europe, and other bands were, you know, signing to big labels, and our labels were just kind of useless at the time. So it kind of got disheartening. And like the last 2 years we were a band, we were on the road for like 8 months a year. So, you know, playing in like a DIY punk band, you know, being in our mid-20s, you know, we were all getting serious girlfriends and stuff at the time. And it was hard to be away, and and you're coming home with no money, and you're living on like dudes' couches in between and stuff. And I think this to everyone, and we're kind of like, fuck it.
It happens though, as it is. It can take a toll, like mentally and physically, because it's like you're constantly sleeping on floors, couches, and
we slept in definitely some gross conditions. I remember one day in like, this is in like northern Ontario or something like that, we stayed at some punk house, and the mattress was literally, I had to like brush off like cigarette butts off it and stuff. It was gross.
That is nasty.
But you definitely sometimes get like a rad house though, where, you know, some kid will be like, oh, you can stay at our place, and you'd be like, oh, okay. And then you'd find out he lived with his parents, and they're out of town, and he had a swimming pool and stuff. Like once in a while those will pop up, and it'll be like, yeah, you know, you go there, the kid will be like, oh yeah, just drink my dad's beer, and you know, drink some beers, go for a swim, do the laundry. So those are always good. But most of the time it was some like punk house where a guy has like 3 giant dogs that are drooling and pissing everywhere, and it's like, yeah.
Pissing on your mattress, and the shower's always cold.
Yeah, exactly. No toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to wipe your ass with the old frickin' cardboard cartons in the garbage can.
Yeah.
Nice. So, in between, like, the band, you guys ended up doing like quite a few things. Yeah,
Stu, like Dandon, once we broke up, Dandon, our second drummer, he ended up getting a degree. He's like a nurse now or something. He's really like smart and educated, which is surprising because 10 years ago I would have thought he would have been like, he was the most likely of all of us to end up in jail, but he's like doing all. I'm really proud of that guy. And Stu always had his like recording studio, and you know, he had he's the king of starting a million different bands. He's really talented and stuff, and I don't know if he's just not focused or whatever, but he's like one of the most talented writers out there. And you know, his last band, Youth Decay, which they're still going. I think they're just taking a little break because of Comeback Kid and Daggermouth.
Yeah.
But so he did that. He also recorded the newest Comeback Kid album. Dana, who was our first bass player, he was in Carpenter and did some stuff with Living with Lions and stuff like that. So he's kept busy too. And and I went the opposite direction. I went into pro wrestling.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually opened for Living with Lions and Youth Decay, so.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, man. Back when I was in Saskatchewan, I played in a punk band before I ended up shattering my wrist.
Shit, how'd that happen?
Long story short, was riding a bike, car cut me off, I ended up flipping the bike, and had to put my hands out to try and save myself.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
That's when
I just got cleared to play music again, so
Oh,
get
congrats,
back into
man.
it. Yeah.
Yes, man. We'll play with you.
Hell yeah, man. Sounds good to me.
Where do you live right now? You're in Kamloops?
I am in Kamloops right now, yeah. Ended up moving here from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Kamloops is a rad little town. I'm originally from a small town called 100 Mile House. That's not too far from there.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, I used to go to Kamloops and see like Millencolin play and Gob play, and there used to be some like pretty rad shows that would occasionally roll through Kamloops.
Yeah, Gob actually came through in November.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad. Yeah, yeah, they're still like keeping their roots to all those small town Canadian shows, so that's good for them. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It's like keeping true to it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of them's touring with Sum 41 when he's not touring with them, so.
Yeah, and I think Theo also has like I think he's like a recording guy, like recording bands and stuff too.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into a little bit about the pro wrestling.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's, when did you originally get into pro wrestling? Like, what was the moment you got into it? Like, what was the match or, like, the wrestler that made you, like, become a fan?
I always loved it when I was a kid. Like, you know, when I was a kid, I was like, whenever my parents moved around a lot. Before I moved to 100 Mile, my parents moved all over like the lower mainland a bunch and stuff. And I was always new kid in school, and was always a bit of a bigger kid. So I was always ended up like getting into fights. And I was always the kid that would, you know, try the DDT on the kid while I'm fighting and stuff like that. And so I always loved wrestling ever since I was like probably since I was about 5. I remember watching like Hulk Hogan, and you know, my dad would always take me to see it live. And back before the pay-per-view days, they would set up a big screen and show like, you know, SummerSlam live and the WrestleManias live at the P&E, just on like a big movie screen. So I'd go watch those, and yeah, I just always loved it. And then I kind of got out of it for a while. Like, you remember in the early 90s when you know, when there was like fucking Man Mountain Rock and just like the silly gimmicks, like it
just got like super ridiculous and people were from space and
yeah. So you know, I'm just starting to be a teenager then, and you know, that's when I started getting into like Nirvana, and then Nirvana led into like No Effects and all that stuff. So I got really into like, that's when I started getting into all the punk music and stuff. Yeah. And then I started once like the Monday Night Wars started, the whole WWE, WCW thing. I started kind of watching that again. And then the match that made me say like, holy fuck, I got to do this. I got to learn to be a pro wrestler is when Mick Foley got thrown off the cage by The Undertaker. I was like, I got to do that. So
it's hilarious because that was one of the moments that made me do it too, and it's one of the reasons why my girlfriend hates the idea that I want to get involved with the business.
Yeah, it's that was one of the things. So, you know, I graduated in 99 and moved down to Vancouver from 100 Mile House to start a wrestling career. And long story short, I ended up meeting a guy named Rocket Randy Tyler, who's kind of like a legendary local wrestler, and he trained me up how to wrestle, and I did that for a couple years, just like local. You know, I'd go to Portland. Yeah, I worked with like Roddy Piper was kind of booking a company out there, so I'd go out there with Randy Tyler and Mike Roselli, who was another one of my trainers, and go out there and do that. And around 2002, 2003, like, I just started getting more back into music, and DAGGERMOUTH started, and so I kind of put the wrestling on a hold till till Daggermouth broke up, and then I remember thinking, like, man, I still want to tour and travel, but I just don't want to do it with 4 or 5 other dudes right now. And
yeah,
I'm going to get back into wrestling. And so, yeah, that was, I didn't become a star, but I actually, I got to tour to some like really cool places and stuff, like places I'd never probably have a chance to do in music and stuff. So, yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, I was able to go to I did one show in Japan for Tajiri when he had his company running. I've been to Korea. Like I did 4 or 5 tours of Korea now. And, I don't know too many people that can say they've been to, South Korea and traveled around and taken a bus and, gone to all these little Korean towns and stuff. And so that was rad. So yeah, stoked on that.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's it. It's like I'm just going through your matches, and you have a lot of Vancouver working with the Bollywood Boys and Davey Boy Smith, and
I was lucky to, it's sweet to see the Bollywood Boys. All the they always worked hard and everything, so they deserve what they're getting right now. It's good seeing them in the WWE and that. But yeah, I worked Davey Richards, Davey Boy Smith, a bunch of ROH guys and stuff. It's always, it was good. It was always fun working those dudes. You'd always learn something, right? Because those guys are at such a higher level than the local guys.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Sid is definitely the Bollywood Boys are amazing sellers. That's I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, they were, I know Harv. I don't know which one he is in WWE. I don't really watch WWE. He's either, I think they're called Samir and Sunil or something like that.
Yeah, they had to pick the most obvious names.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember telling them once, you guys should go, because they always wanted to be more the Rockers or something like that. And I'm like, you guys should play up the East Indian heritage more. And, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be stereotypical. And then now they're pretty stereotypical. But I guess when money talks, you do whatever.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, but Harv took a break off wrestling for a while. And he was actually in India doing, Bollywood movies and stuff. So, he's a great actor. And I'm sure even once wrestling's done for them, I could see him getting back into acting and stuff. So, yeah, he was doing huge Bollywood movies and stuff like that, I understand. So, that's good on him. Yeah,
no doubt. Good. Really good on him. So what are your experiences with ROH? I know you've done a couple of dark matches for them.
Yeah, I'm on I think I'm on 1 or 2 of the DVDs as the special match or whatever. It was it was awesome. I'm really good friends with Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And, so there's a couple times when they were doing loops around kind of the War of the World tours and stuff like that, or whenever they come to Vegas, and Kyle would be like, just come down, you can hop in the car, meet some of the boys, and blah, blah, blah. So it was awesome. Me and him and Bobby Fish and shit, we just drive around and, sometimes the driving around is always the best part, just shooting the shit about the business and stuff. And but I did a couple dark matches for ROH and that, and it was rad. They're a great company. You find out when you work there, they're not really, because you see them on TV and they're doing these huge shows and stuff, but when they actually run things and stuff, it's not that much different from kind of your local indie show. They're kind of scattering around last minute, trying to figure out last details and hurry up, set the chairs up, doors are opening in 10 minutes. But, it was, it was cool. I got to, step in the ring and do some shows for them. And, I think because where I live, Western Canada is kind of it's kind of the worst place to live if you are a pro wrestler, you know what I mean? Unless you're going to Japan all the time, but there's not really that many big indies around here, and there's some in California, but just, living in BC, the flights are so expensive and everything. So, I think they were interested in me. Like, I did a tryout for them. Like, I went to a Ring of Honor, one of their little Ring of Honor tryout camps and stuff, and they really liked me and that. And they kind of mentioned, like, oh, man, I wish you, if you definitely moved out to the Midwest or lived in the States, we'd use you. And, at that time, like, I'm in my 30s now. I'm not going to, unless I get a contract, I'm not going to, like, uproot the family for, like, indie wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
I can understand that for sure. I kind of want to keep things a little bit grounded and...
Yeah. Like, trust me, Vancouver's so expensive right now. I definitely wouldn't mind leaving it if the opportunity came up, but definitely got to leave it. I need something a little more secure than like indie wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, on the, we would like to use you if you moved out, like...
Yeah.
Would you like to, or would you really, really like to?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. But it's all good. Like, other than that, I've just been, doing little indie matches around and stuff like that. And I started my own company about a year ago, but then the city shut that down. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, I started a company called Wise Pro Wrestling. And we ran like 3 or 4 shows, me and my buddy Tom. And it was awesome. It was rad because it was, always like, Vancouver's a big city, but no one's really taking advantage. Like, there's 2 local wrestling companies around here, but, they don't advertise. They don't, like, they're just kind of both carny, I guess is the word for it. And, I was like, let's run a show with, like, in a bar and, like, more of a, where, like, dudes like you and me will go out and have, because the thing with the other companies, I don't know if it's polite to say, but a lot of the crowd is kind of your Hills Have Eyes people, whereas like, let's have, like, wrestling show where, like, on a Friday night you want to bring your friends out and have, drink some beers and kind of have more like a punk rock atmosphere and stuff with it. And
why not?
Yeah, and they were going good, and then right before my show last December, like just over a year now, the city wrote me on like 48 hours notice. And they literally said, like, oh, I see you're running a wrestling show and I see it's doing good. We want to start making you get the same licenses as an MMA company. And I'm like, well, pro wrestling is very different from MMA. And they're like, yeah,
very different.
You just got to pay us money. Like, they were basically like, some new lady got a job in the permits department in the city of Vancouver and just decided to, like, home in on pro wrestling. Like, that was just her enemy, like,
we need more money. So
yeah, so once it's, I was just kind of doing it for fun and stuff. And, once I have to get, like, higher security companies, like, I was like, all the bars I work at, all have bouncers and stuff, like, all the bars that I'm running. Oh, no, you
that work.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, no, it has to be, like, a Vancouver certified security company, like, so now you're stuck paying, like, $1,000 to some security company. And, then you got to get special events permits from the city. And it's like, well, it's no different than kind of running a play or something, which, venues do. And I don't know, the lady was just a cunt, so I don't know. I was just
That's
like,
fair enough.
Yeah.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Alright, don't worry, we still have a lot more coming with Kenny Lush. We're going to talk to him about working with the likes of Kyle O'Reilly and the Queen of Spades, Shayna Bazler. We're going to talk to him about why exactly the Glendale Police Department hates DAGGERMOUTH so much. And we're going to get into why DAGGERMOUTH decided to get back together and play music. But before we can get to that, we need to take care of a little bit of business and play a little bit more music. So, you guys already heard me tell you at the beginning of the show that if you use the code DTP when you're shopping at the Collar and Elbow web store, you're going to save yourself 10% off. What I didn't tell you is that some of these items, some of these fantastic pieces of clothing, are already on 20 to 50% off. Some items are even 66% off. If you guys want to cop the Planet of the Capes Shane Helm shirt, that's 50% off right now. If you want the collar and elbow towel, that's 50%, just a solid $5.99 right now. If you guys want the collar and elbow beanie, you can save yourself 20% off right now. And then you can also get any of the New Year's 2018 shirts, including the female army tank, which is very stylish. And you can even get your hands on the basic mirror on white shirt for $15. All of this, plus you can save an extra 10% off any of these items by using the code DTP when you're checking out. So what is there to lose? It's all gain. You're saving yourself money, plus you're supporting great wrestlers and the Desert Tiger podcast. Alright, for our middle song of the show today, we are going to play another song by DAGGERMOUTH, of course. So this is You Do This as a Fad. We do this as a lifestyle. Alright, you guys know what time it is. It's time for our Audible Audiobook of the Week, which is brought to you by www.audible.com/DTP, where if you go right now, if you type that in right now, you'll get yourself 1 free month of Audible and 1 free audiobook to get you started. And maybe you want to use that 1 free audiobook on a book like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. If you're someone who likes listening to motivational books or speeches or likes reading all those self-help new agey type things, but you're getting a little bit sick of all the snake oil salesmen that tell you that positivity is going to get you through everything and is going to solve all your problems, then let me tell you, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is definitely for you. This book tells it how it is, and tells you that the bad comes with the good, and you can't always have good, so quit beating yourself up. It's a very good look at how the social media driven loops of our minds are creating the depression and sad states that a lot of our world is in today. It's an incredible look at why you should choose what fucks to give and how to carefully decide where to give those fucks. So once again, if you want to get a great audiobook like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, you can do so by going to www.audible.com/DTP. Once again, that is www.audible.com/DTP for 1 free month of Audible, as well as 1 free audiobook. And if you guys like Audible enough after that free trial that you decide to keep the Audible service, Audible's going to go and give you a second audiobook for free on the house, thanks to us, your boys at the DTP.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Oh, that's fair enough. All right, you gotta wrestle Kyle O'Reilly in one of his last matches, actually, before he made his WWE debut.
Yeah, he grew up out here, so he has family out here, and he was coming back to visit for a little bit, and he just, yeah, it was awesome. I got to wrestle, probably one of his last matches before he went off to NXT.
Yeah, like 6th or 7th last match.
Yeah, so that was really awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always good to when you wrestle a friend, you always end up hitting each other a little bit harder. I think that's just I think if you respect someone wrestling, you end up hitting them a little harder. You know what I mean? Just because it's like Cody sorry, I'm watching Ring of Honor and Cody just came on, but Kyle's like a brother to me, so we laid into each other pretty good and stuff. But yeah, it was a really fun match.
Nice. That's good. It's good to hear that you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right. So how did you end up getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Oh, probably 8 years ago or something like that. Is just kind of I wanted to keep, maybe about 6 years ago or so. I keep more, I was like, what's some training I can do for pro wrestling? But I'm tired of just going into the gym 5 days a week and just lifting weights, for an hour. It's kind of getting tedious, and I never like going to the gym. It's really hard to go, and I was like, man, I should learn some jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And I ended up finding there was a guy in town named Jason Crawford who just kind of for fun ran a little catch wrestling club out of a community center, and started going there, and he was teaching me the catch wrestling, which is a lot of neck cranks and toe holds, and I call it a more violent jiu-jitsu for people that don't really know. And I just started doing that just to kind of offset my pro wrestling training. And I did a couple, local competitions and won. I won the West Coast Submission Series and, kind of a bunch of, I don't know, I probably got 8 medals hanging up or something like that. So yeah, it was good. And, eventually after, as I get a little older, the bones are hurting a little more and stuff. So I don't really do it too much anymore, especially now with the music and stuff. But it was awesome. And I even got to go to Japan to partake in this submission arts wrestling tournament. And I got gold in that. And that was also where I kind of had my one and only kind of MMA fight over there too. So that was a bit of an experience. So that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Definitely sounds like it would be a good time.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking at the time being in, Japan all by myself and, having to worry about fighting some dude, but it was, yeah, but it was good.
Oh, I can understand where that fear comes from.
Yeah.
Strange man in a strange land.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always weird. you know, a lot of the time with wrestling, you know, you'll get an email, like, for example, like these Korean tours that I do, like, you get an email, and it's like, oh, are you available, blah, 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 and you work out details, and it's like, sure. And I remember my first tour of Korea, they're like, okay, we'll send you airfare. And so I waited, and even when I went to bed that night, the night before I was supposed to go, I didn't have my airfare, and I was like, holy shit, like, I don't know, I guess I'll wake up at 6 a.m. and start getting ready and see if it's there. And I woke up, and the next morning it was, you know, my flight was sitting in my inbox, so I was like, oh shit. So I rushed off to the airport, and, you know, you get on this plane, you don't really know what to expect. You hope someone's waiting for you at the airport when you get there, and, you know, but, you know, it's super fun also. That's why, like, it's funny. Now that I'm touring, a couple guys in my band, they're like, well, what's going to happen? Who's going to meet us at the airport? What's going on? And it's like, dude, just chill out. We got our flights. It's an adventure, you know? Everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I kind of love that. That's one of my favorite things in life, is to just go on a plane, go somewhere and get off and not really know what to expect or anything, but always leads to a fun adventure.
Usually does, without a doubt. All right. So, did you learn anything from the Queen of Spades herself while in your time working with her?
Oh, Shayna Bazler, yeah, I was kind of stoked to some of her earliest stuff when wrestling was with me. Yeah, there's this local company in town, and they were running like a big special event, and I convinced them. At first, they were like, no, I don't know who she is. And I was like, no, it's a good idea. You should do this. And yeah, I got her booked on the show first as my manager, and then she attacked another female wrestler from here and kind of led into an angle. But yeah, I didn't really do any like jiu-jitsu training or like catch training or anything. But yeah, she's a rad person. It's good to see all her hard work paying off, and yeah, she's out in Florida too now, NXT, ripping it up. So I got a bunch of friends out there.
All right, you happen to mention that the band is going to be traveling soon, so let's bring it back into DAGGERMOUTH. What made you guys end up deciding to get back together and give it another go?
We've talked about it over the years, and I think a big part of it is, you know, over the years we'd have some like pretty sweet offers to get back together, and we're always like, nah, fuck that, or, you know, someone wasn't into it or whatever. But over the years, I think we kind of started to miss each other, and as when we broke up, like, I didn't talk to Stu for years. You know, there's probably at a time if I ran into him on the street, I probably would have beat him half to death. So it's you know, and then slowly over the years, it's like you think of all the fond memories. It's like, yeah. And Dandon, the drummer, was actually the main guy that, you know, he was always trying to get it back together, and he would keep in touch with me every few months, like, hey man, how are you? Just checking in. And, you know, and eventually, you know, this kind of time last year, he wrote me and Stu and was like, hey, so Pooza Fest in Montreal, they're wondering if we want to get back together and do a set. And, you know, we were finally like, and Dana was down to play bass, who was our first bass player, and it just kind of worked out. And, you know, we're like, fuck yeah, let's do it finally. You know, because we invested so much time in this band, and then to have it end up falling apart the way it did, it kind of felt like, fuck. Like, at least to me, it feels like my whole 20s was kind of a waste, right? And now, yeah, so it's, you know, that it's cool to get back together and, you know, travel with my friends, and, you know, end things on a high note, I guess, right? Like, you know, we're playing places we always wanted to play but never got a chance to, and, you know, doing some rad festivals that we didn't get a chance to ever do before and stuff. So yeah, it's been awesome. We just decided, for Pooza Fest, like, okay, let's do it. And then, you know, we start practicing. We did a Vancouver show, and then the next week flew out and did like Toronto and Montreal for Pooza. And we've just kind of been booking stuff steady since. I don't think we're going to ever hop in the van again. Like, we kind of, like, we're definitely not going to buy a van. You know, if we need one, we'll just rent one. And I think at this point we've all kind of clued in that anything more than 2 weeks is probably not, you know, like, we know each other, you know, when you have a good buddy, but it's like, man, I don't want to hang out with that guy every weekend. You know what I mean?
You know? I can understand that.
Yeah. So, and especially now as we're adults, you know, it's, you know, it's a lot easier to kind of read people and stuff like that. So, yeah, we've just been doing kind of keeping busy, but not busy at the same time. It's weird. Like, in, you know, September, we had like a little Western Canada run where we played, you know, we flew in and did Alberta and Winnipeg. And then, you know, the week after that, or the month after that, we had the Fest in Florida. And then we had Japan in November for like 5 days. And oh yeah, we also at some point went to Newfoundland during the summer, like in July. And what else did we do? Yeah, after Japan, we did LA in December. Just flew in for that. So it's been cool. Like, promoters have been getting a hold of us, and we're just kind of, you know, we kind of consider ourselves a vacation band now, right? It's like, you know, we'll come out there, just pay for our flights and a hotel room, and let us sell merch, and, you know, we'll do it up. So yeah, it's been rad. Like, I don't know if we're ever gonna hop in the van again and, you know, do a lot of the buttfuck nowhere towns and stuff like that. But, you know, I even want to do, like, you know, it'd be fun to get over to Vancouver Island for a weekend, and, you know, even do, I don't know how Gob did up in Kelowna or in Kamloops or anything, but it'd be fun to go up there and do like a little Kamloops show or Kelowna show and all that stuff. But yeah,
I'm sure now, they would love to see you.
Yeah, right now we're just doing. We got in April. We're finally getting over to the UK. We were supposed to do it like years and years and years ago when we were active, and I remember someone hit us up and emailed us, and I noticed there's posters up on MySpace, like, you know, certain towns, like, oh yeah, Daggermouth's coming, but I couldn't get a hold of the guy that was booking the tour, and I didn't have any idea about money and van rental. Like, the guy just kind of like abandoned on us. I didn't know. So I'm sure in the end it was just some kid that was like, you should tour here. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And next thing you know, he started booking shows, and, you know, finally I was like, fuck, I don't know who's booking these, but we're not going over there because we don't know. But yeah, the UK's always liked us. Like, it's, people have been writing us from there from years and stuff. So it's awesome. We're going to go over there and do that finally for like a week. And then this band from France called Hightower wrote us. They're like, oh, do you want to do, we love you guys. Why don't you come do some mainland Europe with us? We'll take you guys out and, you know, get you a van rental and all that stuff. So yeah, it is just a good opportunity to finally go over to Europe. So April, I'm stoked to do that.
Yeah, without a doubt. It should be a good time.
Yeah, so, and the UK is so fucking expensive. I think it was the only way I'd ever be able to go see it, to be honest. You know, the pound is just so much more than the Canadian dollar. So
yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. So to be able to make a business trip out of it definitely helps.
Yeah. So yeah, so I don't know. It's pretty. I don't know. I'm stoked to get over there finally. It's going to be good. The Little Rockets Records over in the UK is re-releasing Turf Wars on vinyl, so we'll go over there and hopefully sell a bunch of records for that guy. And nice. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
I might have to try and track one of those down.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we had Animal Style Records printed a bunch of our vinyl back in the day, but they all sold out super quick. That was like, we were broken up, and, you know, he's like, oh, I'm going to press some vinyl. I don't even know if it'll sell, though. I just want to, you guys should just have vinyl. And I remember, like, the first pressing sold out in, like, 2 days or something like that. So, yeah, and we haven't really had vinyl since, so it'll be good to get the shit back out on record.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Hopefully I can get my hands on that. Do you guys plan on recording anytime in the future? Any more DAGGERMOUTH material, or?
Yeah, we went in the Tustu studio and did one song just kind of in between. Like, before we went to Newfoundland this summer, Dandon was in town so we could practice, and he went into the studio and laid the drums down, and we finished up the song. So we played it in LA, and the kids seemed to like it. And yeah, we're just kind of sending that song around right now to labels and, just trying to figure things out. But yeah, new songs are definitely in the works, and hopefully a new album out by the end of the year. So if you're listening to this, kids, and there's a label that you like Fat Records, I want Fat Records put it out. So tweet at them, tell them put out the new DAGGERMOUTH. But yeah, it's kind of, our last chance, maybe kick at the bucket. It'd be awesome to, do one more record and tour a bunch on it and go all over the world and stuff. And yeah, so awesome. Yeah, new songs are in the works. They'll have song titles again and all that shit. So, we haven't really matured mentally at all over the years. So it'll still be fun. We're not changing our sound. We're not gonna be playing through combo amps and wearing sweaters on stage and shit like that. So it's gonna be just fast punk rock again.
Solid.
Yeah.
All right, do you have any stories from your time on the road? Any interesting tales?
From DAGGERMOUTH? Well, we have that one song. Yeah. Once we have that song called Glendale PD Hates DAGGERMOUTH, and that's actually because, the Glendale Police Department has pulled guns out on us twice. Yeah, once we were staying at this kid's house, and he was kind of he had a maid, and it was kind of a ritzy area of Vancouver, and of LA, and we're loading our shit into the van, and I kind of popped open the money box in the van to start counting money and getting gas money and breakfast money ready for everyone, and next thing you know, you see these cops in the rearview mirrors. They're, guns drawn coming up, and these cops end up, get out. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? And I guess one of the neighbors saw us just kind of loading, we looked all scrubby and showed us loading stuff into the van. And next thing you know, I'm counting money, and some lady thought we robbed the place. So, they had us all guns drawn and our, faces in the ground, and the maid of the place we're staying in was like, no, there are guests, please. They're not robbing. They're not criminals. So, the cops were like, okay. They hummed and hawed for a minute, and then they're like, oh, weird. We ran the plates. This is a stolen vehicle. And it's obviously not a stolen vehicle, because if it was, how the hell would we get across the border 5 days earlier, right? And,
yeah, exactly.
So they're like, this is stolen vehicle. And we're like, fuck, it's not stolen. They basically were hassling us for 40 minutes. At one point, they were like, oh, we're going to have to go through the van, and they basically started going through everything, all our pockets of our, our coats and everything that was in the van. And the most amazing part is on the dash was a box of Band-Aids, which really had no Band-Aids in it. It had some weed. They went through everything except that one box. It was fucking amazing. But yeah, so they just ended up hassling us for about 45 minutes, and finally, they got a call on the radio. I remember that's there was some big car chase happening and stuff, and the cops basically looked at each other, and they literally said, "Oh, let's do that. That sounds better." And they were just like, "Yep, have fun." They got up, they got in their cars, and fucking went off to some car chase or something. It was crazy, but yeah. And then the other time we're just buying some beer and walking back to a place we're staying at in Glendale, and cops pulled up, and apparently someone that looked like us robbed a store. So, they had the guns on us again, and, that one wasn't as long of an ordeal. We were just like, no, here's our IDs. We're just going to this place, and they let us go. But, yeah, it's kind of...
Apparently, if you look scruffy in Glendale, you're getting guns pulled on you.
Yeah. Yeah, those cops are gnarly there, man. I don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, don't want to end up on the news that way.
Yeah. But
it's funny. So, what are some of your interests outside of punk music and pro wrestling?
Oh, man. I don't know. I got chihuahuas, so I like to chill out with my chihuahuas and walk around. Also, I like to eat food. Food's a big interest. I like traveling. Me and the wife travel a bunch when I'm not touring and all that stuff. But yeah, we try to do 1 or 2 big vacations a year if we can find cheap enough airfare and stuff. So yeah, we go to Europe or Vietnam and stuff like that. Traveling's really fun. I just don't like being stuck. I think out of all these things that I do in life, it's just because I hate being stuck around. I couldn't imagine just working a 9 to 5 where you get 2 weeks vacation a year, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to travel around. I don't know.
I understand that.
Yeah. If I wasn't married, I'd probably just go teach English in some weird random world, some weird random country every year or something like that, So I think that's just how I am.
That's understandable. Understandable.
But
all right. Before I ask one last question of you, where can people find you?
We're on Facebook. DaggerMouth CA is our Facebook.com/DaggerMouthCA is our official page. We got a Bandcamp, Daggermouth.bandcamp.com. I took all the rights back from the old labels and stuff, so
nice.
I put all the shit up on Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. So if you just search Daggermouth there, and it's probably the best way. And I'm on Twitter at Kenneth A. Lush. So that's where people can get a hold of me. Yeah, and we're on the Instagram, Daggermouth604 maybe on the Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sick.
Yeah, easy to find.
All right.
Get a hold. Yeah, man.
Last question for Kenny Rush.
Yeah.
Kenny Lush. Here we go. Who were your high school idols?
Ooh. Definitely before I got into high school, my idol was Axl Rose when I was 11 and 12. My high school idols would probably be definitely Mick Foley.
Nice.
And music-wise, I don't know. I always like Fat Mike, you know what I mean? He runs his own record company. He never sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Mick Foley and Fat Mike. I think those two I'd say would have to be my high school idols.
two guys who like sticking to their guns and doing it their way. That's awesome. I actually am just finishing up Countdown to Lockdown by Mick Foley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
His first book is like a Bible to me, man. The very first book he put out.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's an amazing writer. I'm hoping to book him when he's coming out here in April, I think.
Yeah, is he doing like a talking thing around? Because I know he's coming in for Invasion Championship Wrestling, which runs that he's wrestling they're going to be doing shows in Kelowna and Vernon coming up. They're a rad company to work for. If you're a local BC wrestler, those are the shows you want to aim to get on every year.
Nice.
But yeah, they always bring in like rad old WWE guys and stuff like that. And yeah, Foley's doing this one. So, but he's doing a speaking thing around then too.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna try and book him for an interview if I can, but I'm not sure if he is doing a speaking thing or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, because sometimes he'll kind of do like the comedy thing around there and stuff like that. But yeah, if you need
awesome.
Yeah, if you need a number, like I know the promoter that's bringing him in. So once we're off air, if you need to get a hold, I got that guy's contact. If you need it first,
that would be fantastic because I'm also planning on becoming a referee and maybe a manager and an announcer.
Well, be careful what you wish for. The pro wrestling world is a very cunning world. I always warn everyone before they get into it that it's, sometimes like it, people are wrestling fans and they get into the world of it, and next thing you know, they're like, I hate wrestling. I can't watch it anymore. And it's like, yep, it'll do that to you. But
it's like, I'm not sure if I want to get into the actual wrestling, but it's like at least just a little bit of refereeing here and there. I think I'm reffing my next match, or my first match next weekend.
Oh, rad. For what company?
TTPW, Top Talent Pro Wrestling. They used to be something else out in Calgary.
Oh, okay. All the way out there.
Yeah, they're bringing in Davey Boy and Al Snow, so I'm probably going to run up there and grab a couple interviews, hopefully, and I'm going to be reffing a couple matches.
Nice, perfect, man. Well, good luck. Yeah. Let me know how that goes.
Definitely will. All right, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, a big ups, mad respect, and huge thank you goes out to Kenny Lush for joining us here on episode 21 of the Desert Tiger Podcast. We're very thankful for Kenny for stopping in and sharing his stories about DAGGERMOUTH, how they got started, what ended up leading to their hiatus, and how they ended up getting back together, as well as their upcoming plans like their upcoming tour of the UK. So if you live in the UK, you guys should definitely look that up, where they're going, and see if they're anywhere near you. We also are very thankful for him for sharing his stories about pro wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as well as the overall hilarity he just brought to the show. Thank you so much, Kenny. We also have to give a big thank you to Melanie K for helping set up this interview. Melanie is an awesome PR person, and if you're looking for someone to represent you PR-wise, Melanie is kick-ass, and I would highly recommend her. She has helped set up 2 of our interviews so far, this one including our interview with the Real Mackenzies, which if you haven't heard it, I would highly recommend going back and listening to, because they had some awesome stories. I also need to thank you guys, the listeners, for continually listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, CastBox, Stitcher, Castify. Apparently we're available on 40 separate services, so I'm not going to be able to name all of those because that's extremely hard to remember. We have been listened to in over 10 different countries on 4 different continents so far. So thank you guys so much for tuning in around the world as we continue to take over the world with our Desert Tiger Roar. So if you guys haven't already hit that subscribe button, or if you haven't already reviewed or rated the show, please do so, as it helps us out so much. And if you guys want to support the show a little bit more, you can support any of the great sponsors that we listed earlier in the show, as that helps us out a lot. So, as you know, we always got to leave you off with a bit of a quote, a little bit of something for motivation, a little bit something to get you going, to get you through the rest of the week, to get you through your weekend, and whatever else you need to tackle. So this is a quote from the late, great John F. Kennedy. Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly.
The Desert Tiger Podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review. iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks for listening.